Kia ora and welcome to Sarah's Country. If you've just joined us live, it is our very special wrap of 2020. As we're going to follow a theme of leadership, what has been a huge year for stepping up and doing the right thing, as well as what is needed going into the next year. There's two gentlemen that kick us off in Sarah's Country that both are at a position of heavy influence when it comes to a huge amount of strategy around our primary sector, both behind and beyond the farm gate. Welcome to Sarah's Country, CEO for Beef and Lamb New Zealand, Sam McIvor, and President for Federated Farmers, Andrew Hoggard. Hey, let's just kick it off. Are you both looking forward to a holiday? Are you going to get one? Sam?
Yes. I am looking forward to a holiday. It's been a pretty full-on year, and I traditionally take some time off at the time of the year, as does the team. Don't seem to want to hear from me, and if you live in a place like Wellington, basically government shuts down, so I'm going to have a good break, thank you.
Andrew, the cows still need milked though. Are you still going to, recharge somehow?
I stopped doing all the Fed stuff, so yeah, nothing happens in Wellington through January, but the farm still needs running, hay still needs to be made, so I'll still be doing it, but to be honest, if I've just got to do farm work, and then each night go out with the 22 and daughter and blast some rabbits, do a bit of building around the house, to me, that's sort of relaxation. So it might not seem that to other people, but for me, it's how it's probably more relaxing than hopping in a car and being stuck in traffic somewhere, to be honest.
I was actually just thinking, my old man taking me out to shoot rabbits would be the best Christmas present that I could get, actually. I certainly think that it's a wonderful reflection when, of course, going out and doing farm work is a holiday, Andrew. Yeah. Hey, now both of you have had a massive year. It's not just, of course, COVID. There has been so many developments in terms of dealing with the regulatory change, but also in terms of taking the industry forward. Sam, let's start by looking back at COVID and what you're most proud of from the beef and lamb team.
Yeah, I think if I talk wider than the beef and lamb team, I thought the industry put on an amazing performance, really. So if you think about early in COVID, we had lamb processing capacity down by 50%, cattle processing capacity down by 30-odd%. We're in the middle of a drought. But then you will have seen just the announcement this week that we achieved 130% lambing across the industry. So for me, as I reflect, a remarkable performance by our farmers, by our processing industry as we look at early season schedules at the moment. They're looking healthy, and that is a reflection of the fact that we are really good at what we do in New Zealand, and the way that we farm, where it's a free range, it's a grass-fed, antibiotic-free, hormone-free, that's resonating with customers around the world. So for me, an outstanding performance, which sets us track for the year coming as well.
Yeah. And Andrew, Federated Farmers walking alongside, as well as a lot of the organisations, to guide the government in terms of essential workers under lockdown. What was it like actually getting through to MPI in terms of the consequences and flow-on effects of that?
To be fair, it wasn't that difficult connecting with MPI and getting the message through MPI. We had a meeting with them today, and I, said to Ray and his team, they really were the ministry for primary industries this year, emphasis on the for part. They really did take a lot of times we'll give stick to MPI over they haven't done this, they haven't done that. But this year, I do think, there might have been the odd stuff up that people didn't like, but by and large, they really did do a sterling job for agriculture this year. And, everyone came together and worked as a team, I thought, across industries, particularly during that COVID situation. To be honest, there was a lot of phone calls, a lot of everyone sort of working from home and teleconference calls here and there at all hours, sorting out what does this mean? Are we able to do this? Are we able to do that? Getting processes and then getting the information out to farmers. We had an update at our National Council meeting a couple of weeks back, and our marketing person just showed us the volume of traffic and interactions we had with farmers throughout the year, and it was just this massive spike in the first week of, I think it was a couple of 100,000 interactions we had as an organisation in those couple of weeks of lockdown. So it was just a massive amount of phone calls, emails, people clicking on the member advisories. And, that's, if you look back at the year, that's probably, the thing we've got to be most proud of, how well we pulled together, how well farmers despite all the challenges, keep performing. There was economic stats out just today saying, things aren't looking as bad as everyone was expecting. And, a good part of that was due to agricultural production and the excellent prices we're returning from the land. So, I think farmers can be proud of the job they've done, and, industry, we can all pat ourselves on the back for having stood up and helped our farmers get through this time.
Sam, the work that Beef and Lamb are doing with Taste Pure Nature, and from a consumer fronting perspective, the primary sector, were put on a pedestal and celebrated as food heroes during that time. Our COVID-free status, is it really definitely resonating with the global market? And how can we continue to leverage on the work we've done?
Yeah, I just think it's part of the story, Sarah. If we look internationally at times, it's hard to raise the awareness, or people don't know about New Zealand and about the characteristics of our products and our farming. And so when we're put on the world stage because of COVID, or, historically maybe Lord of the Rings, all of those things help to build a really compelling story about New Zealand. So yes, we're out there pushing the attributes of New Zealand, of Taste Pure Nature, in terms of those things I talked about before: grass-fed, free-range, low-impact farming. It just helps to build that image and raise the awareness. And then, our job at Taste Pure Nature is to direct people to those brands that our meat companies have overseas as the product that can meet people's needs.
Andrew, lobbying from the sidelines, I know, speaking to Chris Lewis a few times on Sarah's Country, with our borders being closed and that heavy COVID strategy, it has had its flow-on effects to our labour shortage here in New Zealand. How are you feeling about how it's been handled, and what needs to be done more?
I think, there's aspects that, you look back and think we could have done better on that. Things have taken a while to get through. I think we had you'd have to say, a caution first approach to the borders. And, in hindsight, potentially that was a smart move. We probably could have done things a little bit better. But it's going to prove a challenge going forward, I think, in just a couple of the real sort of technical areas, and potentially around, if we can't get the border open quick enough in the immediate term of some of the labour shortages. I think in the medium term, we need to focus more on talking to the schools, the kids, get into their heads that careers in agriculture can be extremely worthwhile. If we're looking at where our farms are going to be in, say, 10 years' time, there's going to involve a lot more technology, the skill sets are going to be different, and we're going to need people that are, they're a step above. They're not the traditional, you got 3% in school set maths, you'll make a great farmer. We need the ones that actually pass the school set maths, or whatever the hell it's called now. I think it's getting into the young kids' minds that, agriculture is, if you like doing stuff with your hands and your mind, agriculture can be a great place for you. And that's sort of where, as an industry, MPI, we need to sort of work together on promoting that career pathway. And I think that's going to be our challenge going forward. Where we do have those gaps, then we need to make sure we've got good, smart immigration systems to allow people to be able to get in there and do these jobs. Because even if you can make the career as exciting as possible, there's a lot of people that just still want to be in town, close to the shops, be able to go to the nightclubs, the pubs, and catch a taxi home. Whereas, it's a bit hard to catch a taxi from Palmerston north to Kimbolton, sort of thing. They're extremely expensive anyway.
I know you would have done it once at least, Andrew. Come on, you're lying.
No, I think I just slept in my car, to be honest. But, that is that is some of the challenge of being sort of remote. And sometimes it isn't about the money or the things. It's just being away from everything. And that, some people, if they're used to being in town and around lots of people, solitude's challenging for them. Whereas for others that are used to solitude, we go stir crazy if we're near town.
Absolutely. Isolation is bliss. I actually absolutely loved it. But that is what That's what the biggest thing I learned from living in Auckland for 18 months is they only know what they know. And it's hard to teach them. Sam, I was really disheartened when I was over on the Ag Fest on the West Coast talking to a farmer who said it's so hard to compete when there is books going into schools telling people that farmers are to blame for climate change. Do you take those types of things with importance in terms of the messaging that comes out of the industry bodies that when you move forward in terms of how you support this regulation and how it is perceived?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Sarah. And listen, we've done quite a bit of research around urban New Zealanders and their understanding of farming. And I guess one thing I do need to state first up is that urban New Zealanders do respect farmers and the role that farmers play in the New Zealand economy and in rural communities and urban communities as well. So there's tremendous respect there. But you're right, there are some, I guess, what I would describe as falsities or urban myths, you might almost say. And climate change is one, right? That yes, we're 50% of climate carbon emissions or climate emissions as a country, but actually what people don't understand, and if we think about the sheep and beef industry in particular, is that we've reduced our emissions by 30% since 1990. In the latest sequestration report that we produced indicates that sheep and beef farmers are almost carbon neutral. So I think there's a real onus on us as spokespeople for the industry, and whether it's Federated Farmers, Beef and Lamb New Zealand, Dairy NZ, et cetera, to make sure that we're telling that story. And I've got to admit, we've got to do it better. But initiatives like Open Farm New Zealand, where we invite urban communities onto our farms, we know it's a very, very powerful tool. We know that things like Meet the Need has really resonated with urban communities. And so I think for us, it is telling the story, but it's also taking action as well and providing the opportunities for urban New Zealanders to look at the whites of our eyes and know that we have great people sitting in our industry who are doing great things and who love New Zealand and are very proud of what they do.
Andrew, we are talking about a theme of leadership here, and it is an interesting perspective when you have a lot of industry organisations all around one topic. As soon as certain rules and policies are announced, I am flooded with Dairy NZ and Beef and Lamb's press releases saying we endorse, we're happy to support, etc., changes. One of them today is strongly endorsing the recommendations of a review into the intensive winter grazing rules. How are Feds going to look into the working with government going into the next year, because it's not so much about keeping the door open pre-election anymore?
I think the key thing for us is, in the sort of style, I guess, or how I want to do things is, be open and honest, be straight up with the politicians, and tell them our concerns, why there are concerns, but it's about not doing it in a table thumping manner or going to the headlines first of all. It's about talking to those people, saying here is the challenges we see, here are the problems we see, here is what we'd like to see fixed, here are the concerns our farmers will have with it, and relaying to our farmers, here are the challenges we see with these regulations. I think we all have to be adults and be able to have, straightforward conversations around the challenges we see and the outcomes. And, I'd hope that the politicians would respect the fact that if I'm going to effectively, play the ball, not the man or the woman, that they would do the same. We'll debate the issues on their merits, not on personalities, and sort of leave the personal attacks out of it and just focus on the issues. So that's the sort of attitude I'm going to take to it, and sort of that's how we're rolling in terms of, the fact that, we've got all these people involved. Sorry, I'd add to that, generally the focus always comes on when we disagree with something. So, everyone will focus on the time we disagree. And generally the times we put press releases out saying, well, we agree with this policy, it's like, well, that's no good news. It's not bleeding, so we can't lead with that. And so that sort of often gets missed. But I do think, it's just being straight up, and that's how we're sort of going to approach these things and talk on the facts, the science, and the concerns our farmers have. And, part of our role is that we report back the farmers' concerns. So, we will be talking to the politicians about, here are the concerns our members are telling us, this is what they're concerned about, and, we believe they've got good right to be concerned here, or this is where they're upset about, and providing solutions. Because I see, a lot of times it's not, for me, a lot of these rules and regulations, the thing that annoys me the most isn't that I have to do the right thing. Often I'm already doing the right thing. It's proving to someone I've done the right thing. And usually that proof requires multiple reports and tick boxing and all this annoying stuff where, actually, if you could develop some good systems and actually look at, how am I already recording this information? How could you already get all that, certification effectively, or a surety from me that the right things are happening? It'd make my life real simple, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. And so I think that sometimes it's not the outcome we're against; it's sort of the methods that might be getting to that outcome.
Sam, how do you find it in your role as the CEO of Beef and Lamb New Zealand, where you are essentially representing a very, very wide group of farmers, not just the top farmers to pull them up, and therefore taking an approach which is about, pulling your socks up, but without losing levy?
Yeah, listen, at times it's a difficult situation, Sarah. I believe definitely as an organisation we have a role in leading the industry into the future, and that's exactly what farmers have asked of us. But at the same time, if you're leaders, you've got some followers behind you somewhere, right? And so for us, it's always we've got to gauge where farmers in relation to where we're leading. And so we do a lot of work to try and, what I describe as grassroots ourselves or ground truth ourselves with our farmers. We're all the time trying to test whether we're going in the right direction. And I guess for us too, just alluding to Andrew and the role of Feds, be it Beef in New Zealand or Dairy NZ, you commented on the Southland report, and the Southland report I thought was a really good example of Feds, Dairy NZ, Beef and Lamb New Zealand and farmers working together to give advice to NGOs and to regional council. And I think the message I get very clearly from farmers is that they do want us working together. They don't want us duplicating effort. And so that's something that, whether it's Andrew or Danakil or myself, that we've got to be really accountable to make sure that we're complementing each other in the work that we do. But, farmers have asked us to lead. And so for us, it's looking over the horizon and seeing what things are coming towards us as an industry and making sure that we prepare farmers for it, and farmers can see a path through it, which is about a prosperous future, a profitable future for their business, and vibrant rural communities, which are very, very dear to them.
Andrew, in a wrap, what is one thing that you are most certain is an optimistic future going into next year for farmers and growers in New Zealand?
I think the thing I'm most optimistic about is obviously commodity prices are looking reasonably strong, very strong. So that's something that can't be sneezed at. That's the thing that gives me a lot of optimism. So we've got strong markets, and so if we can, Feds, dairy and Z, beef and lamb, do our jobs and make all the bureaucratic stuff nice and simple for farmers, they can get on with farming and have a good year.
Yes.
Well, the weather will obviously play a part, but we can't control that, so we'll just roll with those punches.
That sounds awesome. Nice and simple for farmers. Sam, what are you looking forward to and most optimistic about 2021?
I'm most optimistic about our farmers. And one of the things, we have talked about a lot of change, right? Regulatory change and internal market change happening. And I've had the privilege to travel all around the world and look at farmers in action. And the thing that I say about New Zealand farmers repeatedly is that New Zealand farmers are the best anywhere in the world at adapting to change. And so I know we have some challenging things ahead, but I've absolutely full confidence in our farmers that they will adapt to change and they will continue to be successful. They will continue to be well regarded by New Zealanders, and their product will continue to be sought after internationally because they're farming in a way that resonates with the world right now.
Thank you so much to our first panel on the last edition of Sarah's Country for 2020, CEO for Beef and Lamb New Zealand, Sam McIvor, and President for Federated Farmers, Andrew Hoggard. I wish you both a very wonderful Merry Christmas.
This is Sarah's Country.